Hi, it's Helen O'Boyle, PR Officer for Greater Liverpool and Knowsley, and I'm joined by Mike Travis, also from the branch. Mike, it's lovely to see you. Thank you very much for joining us. You've been involved in the RCN for a long time now. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us what you're up to?
My name's Mike Travis. I'm a staff nurse at Alderhay in critical care. And this year's a bit of a special year for me because I'm 40 years in the NHS, 40 years as a nurse, 40 years as in the RCN, and I've been an RCN student safety rep for 40 years. So
Wow.
160 makes me feel really dead old. But it means actually that I've been around a lot because I've not just been, working within Alderhay all these years or within the branch. And my background is that I've done 2 terms on the agenda committee.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, and that helps Liverpool get so many items on the Congress agenda.
Don't give our secrets away, Mike.
Oh, yeah. And I've done three terms as your council member on the RCN Council. The biggest job I had was heading up the membership, the trade union on the RCN as a lay member from 1999 to 2007, which was really exciting because that's when we moved over from Whitley Terms, Conditions of Service onto Agenda for Change. But I've been involved in Agenda for Change since about 1995.
So,
That's done a lot.
Yeah, now you've mentioned Agenda for Change. What actually is Agenda for Change?
Well, there's all sorts of things that people think about Agenda for Change, but basically it is an equal value work for equal value pay scheme. It's the biggest equal pay scheme in the world, and it has been ever since it was introduced. And if you want to have a good insight into what we mean by equal pay for equal work, then go and see the film about the Dagenham women. And I forgot the name of the film now. But if you look up the film and watch the film, that'll give you a really good background in what we mean by equal pay for equal work.
And as we talk about equal pay and equal work, as nurses, we're used to being in bands. So what is banding?
Well, when you come and talk about equal pay systems, what you have to have is a ranking system, and that ranking system, excuse me, Mo, the ranking system in Agenda for Change is that we are banded from 2 to from a band 2 to a band 9, depending on the accountability and the content of your job. And the banding is achieved through job matching, and job matching is where we take information about either an individual's job or a collective of nurses, and using the job evaluation booth, which is a pretty hefty piece of kit. We work our way through scoring points, and so your job arrives where a total number of points, and then those points fall within a pay band. So the banding is not to do with the pay, but after we've banded, we award the pay.
But I suppose then the two go hand in hand then, don't they, really? You can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
And so you've touched there, so nursing roles then get banded depending on the job description and how that matches, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, but there's a history to it as well, of course, because whenever you've got a big group of workers, like 1.2 million to reban or to ban originally in the early 2000s, shortcuts were made, and they were certainly made around nurses and around band 5. And what happened was that the band 5s were all just hunked together, whether you worked in outpatients, in community, in intensive care, and the job descriptions were very, very similar and all the same, and we seem to have been stuck onto a band 5. Now, when you look at your job descriptions, because that's a really important part of how you match, the job descriptions and the roles that we have bear no relation to what we were doing 17, 20 years ago. It's moved on hugely.
Yeah.
And so, but what hasn't happened in terms of employment and management, they have not seen the need or haven't recognised the need, that you have to continuously review jobs, make sure there's no jobs creep. So, for example, I mean, in my practice, a lot of band fives that I work with in my unit tend to take on roles that are taken on by band sixes, and band sixes take on roles of band sevens. And what happens is, over the last 20 years, especially in the last 10, they've compressed they've compressed the workforce. So you might see less band sevens in the workplace, but someone's got to do that work, so they give it to the band sixes, and the band sixes offload some of that work down to the band fives, and that's called job creep. And we've actually taken on lots of other things as well. But as an example of where we don't get recognised for what we do, is the issue, say, of drug administration. You know, drug administration for lots of band fives is not ranked very highly. But if you look at the job matching, and this is where you need to be a bit of a geek, and I hope I don't come across as a geek, but this is where you do need to have knowledge. If you look at the ward pharmacist, band five nurse, a ward pharmacist who gets recognised for being the ultimate last in the line of patient safety in the administration of drugs, gets a lot more points than nurses. But in reality, is that it's nurses who are the last part of the safety system, the safe system of work of delivering drugs. And in my years as a trade union rep and representing nurses for, say, drug errors, I've never had to represent a pharmacist for making a mistake, but I've represented hundreds of nurses. And so our managers don't recognise the value of that job. So what we have to do, that would be one of the domains that we would need to attack. So if for example we get that through, and I keep saying if because it's going to need nurses to understand that they have to start this process off. It won't be us. If we could get recognised on that, that would give us about 15 points. And most band five nurse jobs are within 16 points of a band six.
Oh, okay.
And then again, if we take another domain like communication, we don't get recognised for the communication that we have. So lots of staff nurses, lots of people in the wards, as you know, you are the direct link between consultants and registrars and physios and dietitians and radiography to the patient. But we don't get recognised for that, and that gives us more points. And then also, of course, COVID has really brought the last four domains in, which are around health and safety and mental well-being and stress. And for a lot of jobs, they don't get ranked at the highest point scoring of the domain. Now we've got the evidence that we can do that, and that will bring us lots more points in. So I think we can move from a band 5 to a band 6 fairly quickly. But sorry, go on.
So the system exists, so that there's, all of the points there. We just need to show actually what it is that we do and make sure that we're recognised for that.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is, though, I mean, if I do this again, what I will do is put some notes up, and I've got a huge amount of work where I've sat down and mapped band 5 jobs across to a band 6. Yeah. But the issue will be is at the end of the day will be is whether band 5 nurses have got the I think the word that I would say was courage, but the confidence to start this process off. And of course, band 5 and moving to a band 5 and a band 6 will give you more total pay during your working life.
Yeah.
And any 1%, 2%, and 3% pay rises that we'll get over the next 10 years if we're lucky to get that.
And I think being part of a union and having that bigger voice actually does enable you to take on things like this. So how do you actually lodge a band in review or start one off, Mike?
Well, first and foremost is you've got it. You know, no individual band 5 can lodge easily lodge a review, but
Right.
a team of nurses can, a group of nurses can. So a team of nurses on HDU, team of nurses on ICU, team of community nurses, you know, ward teams, because of all that job creep. So first and foremost, you need to sort of get together, have a huddle between yourselves, and get an idea of if you want to do this. So at least if we've got a substantial amount of people in a ward area that signs saying, and then the RCN, then they contact their steward.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, there'll be other people there who might belong to Unison or GMB, and they should also write to their trade union. And then what should happen is that the trade union should work together to achieve that aim. So, for example, is that I've been mentoring a couple of stewards across and discussing these things across the country. And this week I found out that in one trust they won a banding review from band for 12 band 6s to band 7s.
Yeah.
And elsewhere they won a banding review for band 2s to band 3.
It seems though, I mean, the vast majority of our workforce, and the bigger numbers, if you like, are band 5s. So it's difficult then, isn't it? It almost needs to be all of us together saying, no, we don't want this. We want to collectively go up to the band 6, because it needs to be done as one voice, really, doesn't it, Mike?
Well, actually, it needs to be done by segments, because you can't take, you know, the how you conduct the case for a band 5, say on a general ward, will be very different to how you conduct a band 5 to band 6 on an intensive care unit.
Yeah. Okay.
And so we do all need to do it, but we need to do it in teams, and we need to be strategic about it, because there will be challenges to reap abandon. And an example of it is that when I talk about reap abandon in my workplace, band 5 nurses will say, well, I don't want to do the work of a band 6. And I keep saying to them, yeah, not going to do the work of a band 6. The job that you're doing, you know, you're not, you know, you're as an individual nurse, you're not a band 6. It's the job that you do is a band 6. And then there's a reluctance to take on a band 6 role, but it's not about that. It's about doing the same job that's being properly paid for. But the other thing that happens as well is that band 6s then start to feel can feel a bit undermined. But you know, it's up to them then to think about their banding, and they should be
their banding on as well.
So it has a rebound up. You've got to start somewhere, and the best place to start is band 5s.
Yeah. Mike, what would happen if it's refused?
Well, that's really interesting, isn't it? Because if you put in as a group, and your trade union lodges a banding review, it's not a banding appeal, it's a banding review.
Yeah.
And it's refused. Well, there's two things. One, you have a contractual right to have your pay reviewed regularly. And I think after 20 years, it's about time that we had that pay reviewed. And then secondly, your trade union then will force the issue through lodging a grievance on equal pay within the trust.
Oh, okay. It sounds like it would be a lot though.